Did you know that the average member of Generation Z spends as much as 6 hours a day on social media? Imagine being bombarded with campaign ads, political rhetoric, and online disinformation. How do they wade through it all to determine the truth about the policies and issues affecting them? It's a challenge that demands our attention. Well, here are some thoughts as Young Voices commentator Ethan Watson. Ethan, one poll shows Kamala Harris winning 59% of the vote of young Americans between the ages of 18 and 35. And after reading your recent Real Clear Politics article, I'm sure you'd say they're choosing style over substance. So now as early voting starts, how likely is it that some of them will examine issues and policies more closely?
Well, I really hope they will, because my generation, I've always felt like has been a little bit more cynical than generations that have come before us. Unfortunately, I think that was a side effect of COVID-19. We got very utilitarian, very cynical. In my experience as a student and at the university, I've run lots of events. I see how students work at clubs and organizations, and they don't show up because they believe in the guest speaker talking about LinkedIn networking tips. They're there for the free food or the T-shirt. We're very utilitarian. We want a little bit of benefit, and we don't drink the Kool-Aid and buy into the long-term narrative. And so I was at first really mystified as to why my generation was not applying this sort of sniffer to Kamala Harris. But I think it's because, for all of our sort of politically conscious lives, my generation has been bombarded with either on the left, you have political correctness, which is stifling, one wrong move and they'll try to ruin your life. And then on the other hand, you have Donald Trump with, his bold and sort of hyperbolic rhetoric, which is hilarious, but understandably off-putting to some. And I think Kamala has unfortunately provided us with a milquetoast, inoffensive, and palatable way to talk about politics, which is really unfortunate because I don't think Kamala represents what's best for my generation or even really what my generation wants, which is a change from the status quo.
Well, let's get into that. What are the top issues then on the minds of Gen Z voters?
So right off the bat, when I talk to people my age about politics, which I do a lot, I'm a pretty political guy, everyone always says, they always grumble that no matter who's in office, nothing really changes. They want to change from the status quo. And I would feel that Kamala is the archetypical status quo candidate, right? She was literally swapped out at the top of the ticket. No one voted for her. And she's ripping her policies straight off the Joe Biden campaign website. So I would really encourage people my age to examine the bull in the China shop that is Donald Trump. People my age just generally feel like the economy is not moving in the right direction. And so, again, Kamala is doubling down on the Joe Biden administration policies on the economy. And then also, per the polling that I cite in my article, my generation, like 53% would cite a issue at the southern border. I don't know where the other 47% of people have been, like are they living under a rock somewhere? But, she was the one in charge of, securing the southern border. And I'm not sure why we think she is the right person to enact the change that we're looking for. But I think we've just been taken for a ride by her milquetoast rhetoric.
Well, you touched on this a little bit. So how do you think government giveaways proposed by Democrats, forgiveness of student loan debt, a $25,000 first-time homebuyer handout, expansion of child-dependent care credits, medical care, how will that affect their choices at the ballot box?
I would certainly hope that, it kind of plays into, that's what they're obviously trying to do, is they're trying to sort of buy off people my age. And honestly, I just think people my age who agree with me need to have one-on-one conversations with our peers and say, look, like in the long term, is this going to help you? Maybe this feels like a benefit right now, but, in the next 5 years or so, people my age want to start having a family. We think about buying a house. And pointing out how those policies make those activities very difficult and very expensive, I think is a really surefire way to victory. I think the utilitarian argument is what's going to win over my generation because, what do people my age mostly notice, right? We notice prices. We notice the price of a late night slice of pizza has gone up from $2 to $3, right? And so pointing out that that's because of inflationary spending and connecting those dots for people that maybe aren't business or economics majors by trade is a really important way to do it. But I think it just has to be these one-on-one conversations between people like me who, believe in some change and don't believe in Kamala Harris, talking to people our age who have been sort of taken a ride by her milquetoast rhetoric.
Well, early voting has started in some states. So how likely are most Gen Zers to vote? Will they vote early? Will they wait to vote in person or by mail? How are they going to vote anyway?
You know, I I haven't talked to a lot of my friends about how they're going to vote, particular the method. I think a lot of people my age probably will vote early or by mail, which is why it's so critical that we have these conversations now. Now is the time if you're in my shoes, if you're a young conservative or a young libertarian, don't be cowed by being afraid of being canceled or shut down. Now is our time to kind of speak out and have these one-on-one connections. And again, it has to be a one-on-one conversation because they're not going to listen to you if you just send them a link or read them an article. You have to talk to them face to face and say, look, I'm not trying to make you into a conservative or a Trump voter tomorrow. All I want to do is connect with you on a one-on-one level and ask you to hear me out and think about it. And that's really the only way you can do it. And I wish we were making philosophical or moral arguments here, but I'm just not sure my generation is there yet. So we have to go the utilitarian route.
Okay, thinking it through, Young Voices commentator Ethan Watson. Thank you, Ethan, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.